Ahern. Larry Ahern is running for House, Florida House. He's running in District 51. His opponent is Janet Long. Woo! Thank you. All right, here's Larry.
Thank you very much, everyone. And for those of you who don't know where District 51 is, it starts at Ulmerton Road, Largo, south of Ulmerton, comes through Seminole, encompasses a bit of Pinellas Park. It goes in at 102nd Avenue to 58th Street, comes down to Park Boulevard, back out to 66th Street, south to West St. Petersburg, Bay Pines, Azalea, the Tyrone area, and all the way down to South Pasadena at the southernmost point. So 5 cities that I would seek to represent. And I guess I always like to talk a little bit about not being a politician, having never run for office before. So it's been an incredible experience for me to represent what I think is you. I really don't see this as about me. My candidacy was born out of a group that started in someone's home. I don't know how many of you know Lee and Vicki Montgomery. He's not with us anymore, but a lot of you know him and know Vicki. That's where it all started. It was this movement, this 9/12 Tea Party type movement that this candidacy came out of because of you. Because you stood up and you said, we want someone to represent us that's one of us, that will listen to what we have to say and vote accordingly. That's conservative in nature. And as I thought about all the things that came out of those couple of meetings, I decided to step up and say, I'll run. I've lived that life. I know who you want. I think I'm that candidate. And as we've gone along through this process and knocked on 14,000 doors or so, starting last year in July, we had to start early because I haven't run before. And all the people that have come out to encourage us, and the ones that have answered the door when we knocked, are enthusiastic about a small businessman like myself. I used to own Tyrone Tool Supply over in St. Pete, and had signed the front of checks. I understand how that is. And it created a job for someone this last year as they took my place while I spent full time running for this seat, because that's how much it means to me to be able to represent you at this level. Again, I really don't see this as about me at all. It's really about you, and you have decided that you're not going to stand back any longer and take it. That even within our own party, we have to make some changes. We have to remember who we are. Are we really conservative in Tallahassee? Is that the message we're getting from them? And in a lot of cases, it isn't. And that's the message I want to take with me. Your voice up there. I've got a problem. It's happened that another candidate has entered this race and claims to be the Tea Party candidate. A lady from Orlando is a third party. It's called the Tea Party, registered in Orlando to compete against me in this race. That, quite frankly, I don't see how it could possibly represent anyone here, but that's not the point, is it? The point is that Alan Grayson is behind it with the money. It's a Democratic ploy to keep conservative Republicans from winning races, especially in this race. Mine is the race that proves it. So I need your help. If I'm going to overcome both an incumbent Democrat, which on its own merits is tough enough, and a Tea Party candidate, it's going to take a full effort on everyone's part in this room and anyone who claims to represent either a 9/12 or a Tea Party group. I need your help, because I need you to make sure that the movement does not get hijacked by a third political party that seeks to do just that. So I need you to get up in arms and somehow get the word out to your friends and neighbors, whoever it might be, that in Pinellas County, and I'm the only one in Pinellas County that drew an opponent because of the strength of this campaign that so far has been, I think, a threat to an incumbent in the House. So please help me out. My wife is back here with a campaign volunteer form. We need people to wave signs. We're going to need people to call our voters when we get past the primary a little bit. We need people to walk the district. We have to visit some 12,000 homes between now and November 2nd. and we're doing it every day. I walk every day, 100 homes myself, so we can do 500 a week that way. And we meet at the headquarters, which is on 70th Avenue and Seminole Boulevard. We just opened, and we try to walk 500 together as a group on Saturday, so we can do 1,000 homes a week. And we have about 12 weeks left, so we can do it if we can get enough volunteers to help us. And that just means taking a packet and knocking on 50 doors. It's not that hard. It takes about an hour and a half. So please help us by signing up with my wife, or go to the website, larryahern.com, or email me at larry@larryahern.com. Because these are the things that will define us. This is that moment when this movement either sits back and just says, well, it was a good run, Larry, and too bad, so sad, or steps up and becomes part of this campaign by donating either your time, your talent, or a contribution that will help me get the word out so that we can do a comparison piece that says, we do have a conservative candidate, and I am that one. The only other thing I think I'd like to talk about is how the principles and values that you hold are the ones I seek to represent. The things that you hear that are happening in our country today that no longer hold true. Our Constitution, everything should be based on the bills that come out of the House on that first, and on the statutes. And these are the things that I think that you know this country needs to turn back to. We need to turn back to those conservative roots. That's what will make us successful again as Americans. That individual responsibility, that personal accountability for living within our means, and at this point in time, probably tightening our belts a little bit. And it turns out in Tallahassee, they don't even have a belt. So we need to get as many conservatives as we can elected, and I would appreciate you helping me out in that regard. Please see me after the meeting, or see Maureen after the meeting. We'll be glad to help you help me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Anybody have any questions for Larry?
How can that possibly be legal for someone in Orlando to run against you?
That's a good question. There's a state law, and that's probably the first one we'll address if I get elected. But what would happen is if you lived on a boundary next to a district that possibly you did more business in, or especially in a Pinellas County seat, let's say, the law is that you have to move by the time the election rolls around. You would have to move into that district or into your county area. So there is a law that technically would allow, but she's not moving here. That's not going to be the case. This is just a setup to, again, every vote for Torres is really a vote for Janet Long. And that's all this is about, to Rossboro the vote as a board. But there is a law that allows it. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, Larry, I'm glad you're in my district. The first thing you said already sold me was that you've never run out for office before. And to me, like, it's always been some of the problems we're facing. People are so entrenched, and power gets to them after a while, even though they come into it idealistically. The question I have is, what is so bad about having a split government that can keep track of each other? Like a Democratic governor and 2 houses Republican, or a Republican Senate, Democratic House, Republican governor. It seems like the Republicans have really squandered the assets that they've had by having the entire executive and judicial and legislative branch tied into one. And of course, we've heard some of the outrages of scandals and money problems and fraud and that kind of thing. How would you address that, and what is your philosophy on that?
Well, and you're right. Typically, we would always like to have some balance, and it slows things down, unlike what we've experienced with the Democratic Party controlling the federal level. So we see how bills get ran through, and our process gets circumvented. And you know what? Our party's just as guilty. We have done the same thing. They bring bills to the floor last minute. The SB 6 came out without going through a committee, and several other bills. And that's not how the process is supposed to work. So we've lost our way. It's another reason I'm running, quite honestly, because of politicians that just come up through the ranks, so to speak. And in fact, they come down and pick them so many times. You'll notice how the party works. Unless they know who you are, they can even campaign against you in a sense, or not support you in your candidacy. So that's part of the problem is that we need more citizens to step up, and then we have to support them, even if the party doesn't, or in spite of the party itself many times. Because if they don't know you, and if they didn't pick you, they can make it really tough for you to have a voice within the party itself. So there's a real challenge there. And you know, we can't stray away from that conservatism. We have the power to reduce the deficit. And they say balance the budget, but we know if you're taking stimulus, our guys are voting for it, against it, the stimulus money at the federal level, and we're standing here at the state level with our hand out saying, let's increase the budget, and let's keep spending. And we should be. We should be cutting the spending and doing the same thing. We had that same opportunity. They say they fixed unemployment, and you're going to hear that from a lot of your legislators during this campaign. We fixed unemployment at the beginning of the session. We didn't fix anything. We put some air in a flat tire. It's got a slow leak. By borrowing money, taking stimulus money to pay for unemployment compensation. And our guys at the federal level say, no, cut spending. Cut spending to pay that bill. If you want to extend unemployment, let's find out where the fat is. But no, we didn't do it. In fact, we in a year when we couldn't afford to, we increased the budget almost $3 billion, $2.5 billion. It's up from 66.5, went to 69 and 70 billion right at the end. It should have been going the other way. We should have been about 63 billion, and then we should have been 60 billion next year, because we're running out of gas. When the stimulus money runs out, unless they start another roundup, which piling on the debt, we're going to be well, again, we're just mortgaging our future for a little bit of painlessness now. It doesn't make any sense, and that's why. While you're right, balance is better. At the same time, if you're going to change your party, believe in the conservative values, we just have to go up and say, no, I'm not going to vote for bills that borrow more money. I can't be for that. That's not what the people expect me to do. I'm not there to, really not there to make any laws. Most people go and say, well, you're a legislator. Why don't you go make, you're expected to make laws. Well, I'm not a lawyer for one thing. And I would like to just repeal some laws. In fact, I'd like to start with that one that allows someone from another county, Orange County, to run in a district in Pinellas County. That would be good. Let's repeal some of the laws that we don't need or don't make any sense, instead of making it more easy. Any other questions?
I have a question. When you go to Tallahassee, if you have a choice of which two committees you could sit on, what would they be?
Wow, that's a good one. And I'll tell you, I think insurance is our biggest problem, quite honestly. We should not be in the insurance business. Citizens insurance is underfunded and in trouble. If we have a storm that hits in the right place at 100 miles an hour, thereabouts, we'll be mortgaging the future of Florida. You think we've got economic problems now? We need to be out of the insurance business. We had a chance to do that. We had a great, well, 2 years in a row, we had a really good bill a year ago that would have started the process of weaning us out of citizens. But what they do instead, they reduced the premiums by 25% on citizens and drove the competition out. They said, they wanted to take an increase. They were at $1,600 and Citizens was at $3,700. They would have come in and raised it to about $3,100. And instead, we reduced Citizens rates down to about $3,100 or $3,200 and told State Farm and the rest of them to hit the road. Well, guess what? We are underfunded. We've got $3 or $4 billion that they can also bond out and borrow some more money against it. But it's not good. If we have that storm that's $15 billion or $20 billion, our Florida's sunk. We're not reinsured anywhere. So I think the insurance, more directly answered, we need an insurance bill. We had a little bit of one, and guess what? The governor turned on us. Again, I don't know, this legislature seems to set us up for all the things that have happened. They bring SB 6, and that takes Charlie out of a Marco race that we could have won, and switches him over to an independent. Now it's uncertain. And then he vetoes the ultrasound bill and the insurance bill. Two things that I think would have been good for Florida. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you, Larry.